Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 6. So while I think most of us are getting into, what would you call it, like crisis mode, as that crossover event is quickly approaching us, it's only 2 weeks from tomorrow until it comes out, which is crazy, or at least it starts, might I say. There are still 2 episodes of The Flash to consume before that event kicks off. Those 2 episodes are, of course, the 2-part finale of episodes 7 and 8, otherwise entitled The Last Temptation of Barry Allen Parts 1 and 2, which will see the wrap-up to the Bloodwork arc for the opening portion of this season, which I think has been fairly decent. Like, what do you guys think? What would you rate it out of 10, I guess you could say, this opening arc? I think they could have focused more on Ramsey Rosso for another episode or 2, where we got other stuff. It feels a lot of descent into Bloodwork for him has happened off-screen or in really quick scenes. But we, of course, had to focus on the crisis build-up aspect of the opening half of Season 6. But yeah. But along with the build-up to the 2-part finale with Bloodwork and Crisis, we have also had some seeds planted, if you want to call it, to stuff happening in the back half. This including stuff like the Sue Dearborn stuff, as well as some stuff revolving around Iris and a conspiracy, around or within Central City. And in this video, we're going to be going over some stuff around that and much more stuff. Well, not much more, and an interview stuff as well, interview piece, as well. But yeah, it's a decent amount to go over regardless. But of course, throughout the video, if you're going to enjoy, it would be awesome if you could drop a like in it to show your support and excitement. And of course, let me know all of your various opinions in the comments section down below. What do you think of this new casting that's come in, as well as just the potential of what's going to be happening in the back half? But yeah, the first thing to go over is actually, well, that new casting for The Flash for its back half following Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, this is the second major casting for the back half following the casting of Sue Dearborn last week, who will be played by Natalie Dreyfus. But this time around, we have the casting of a villain from the comics, and whether that plays out in the show is for us to wait and find out. We have had that stuff in the past where someone that is a villain in the comics might not necessarily be a villain in the show, or someone that is sometimes a more heroic character in the comics might be a villain on the show. They could, sometimes they flip it around. Now, back in Season 3, yes, we're going back a few years, might I say. If you can remember, we had Sam Scudder, aka Mirror Master, show up along with Top for a couple of episodes. Now, he was a metahuman, unlike Mirror Master in the comics, who isn't really, uses a weapon rather than being an actual metahuman with the powers built in. Obviously, there has been stories where that's happened, but traditionally, it's a weapon, not a metahuman. But we also learned in Season 3 that on Earth 2, the Mirror Master over on that Earth was known as Evan McCulloch, which, ticked off both the Mirror Masters from the comics being present in the Arrowverse, multiverse, if you want to call it. But for Season 6, we have another Mirror Master, or at least another potential Mirror Master, and it is another McCulloch, but this time around it is Eva, or Eva, we'll go Eva McCulloch, not Evan, Eva. So we are now getting a gender-bent version of Evan McCulloch on Earth 1. Now, there was a lot of talk about this being a forced gender bend, as there are multiple other female villains that they could have used rather than gender bending another male character. But as we will go over in a second, I think it was gender bent for one reason in particular, for the storyline, just to flow a bit better, but also just start it off easier, if that makes sense. But this is the actress's name. I'm going to butcher it because I just know I am. Efrat Dor. She was or is currently on Mayans, which I think is the Sons of Anarchy spin-off, Mayans MC or something like that. But Efrat Dor, or Efrat Dor, not too sure how you pronounce it, but I'll leave the link to the article where they announce it so you can read it for yourself. But Efrat Dor, however you pronounce it, has been cast in the role of Eva McCulloch. Now, she will be a series regular in the second half of this season, which is otherwise entitled Graphic Novel Number 2, with the Bloodwork arc being Graphic Novel Number 1. Now, it is being said that viewers can expect Eva to develop an interesting connection with Iris West Allen, but this is the actual official description for the character of Eva McCulloch. A quantum engineer and co-founder of McCulloch Technologies, Eva McCulloch is a scientific genius who works on the bleeding edge. Eva has been away from Central City for many years, but a chance meeting with Iris West Allen results in a surprising alliance that pushes the boundaries of sanity, while also uncovering a vast conspiracy to take down Team Flash and its allies. Now, in Season 5, some of you might remember, because it was only last season, it shouldn't be too hard to remember back to, last season, you might remember that Team Flash stole that mirror gun sort of thing. I think it's actually referred to as a mirror gun, and we're all thinking, hold on, is that set up for Mirror Master? Is he going to be the villain next season? What's happening there? But anyway, they stole that mirror gun device from McCulloch Industries, McCulloch Technologies, not Industries, McCulloch Technologies, and they eventually used it to successfully destroy Cicada's dagger. Now, I bet you thought you had heard the last of the Australian pronunciation of cicada. Nothing never ends, you can't hide. Cicada, cicada, cicada. But in regards to this casting and the whole topic of it being gender bent, I think the obvious reason as to why it was done is to easily form a bond between Iris and Eva. I think that's the simple way to look at it. Obviously, you could look at it and come up with a more in-depth and detailed and, oh my god, philosophical reason as to why they gender bent the character. But to keep it, simple and sweet, I would just look at it that way. It's just an easy way to have those two strike up a friendship or partnership, whatever you want to call it. It's just easier that way. Because as soon as you bring in a male character and a female character, you know how it is. People just theorize, and oh my god, is Iris going to cheat on Barry? Is that the new headline? So just having a female friendship is probably the easier way to go. As I've said, it could have been another female villain, but they obviously wanted to go down the McCulloch Technologies and the mirror gun stuff, so maybe, that's the way they wanted to go with it, so I can understand why they felt the need to gender bend. But in regards to what Iris and Eva get up to and what it leads to later in the season, this will be connected to the whole secret organization that has been set up, which is currently tied to Ultraviolet from earlier episodes, which were episode 2 and then last week's episode 6. Now, this organization is, of course, Black Hole. If you've been watching my videos, I've mentioned them a few times, even though they haven't been name dropped on the show as of yet. But as we saw at the end of last episode, Ralph did give Iris that photo and various information from their events in episode 6 before being attacked by Bloodwork off the building. So Iris will be diving, pun intended there, because Ramsey Russo dived off the building with Ralph anyway. But Iris will be diving deeper into all of that, which from memory starts in this week's episode. But with Eva, maybe some of her tech is associated with this Black Hole organization, whether they, she gave it to them or they stole it, and they are tinkering with it and maybe turning it into even deadlier weaponry. For those that don't know, in the comics, Black Hole sort of made weapons using the Speed Force, so they are very deadly to people connected to the Speed Force. So imagine if they got some of that McCulloch Technology stuff and then added some Speed Force sort of power to that. It'd be very interesting. And obviously McCulloch Technologies was the area in which they got that serum thing for Ramsey Russo back in episode 3 or 4 or whatever it was. So they've played a part already this season. But as the description for the character does say, this vast conspiracy is based around taking down Team Flash and its allies. So it will be interesting to see if Eva ends up becoming a version of Mirror Master, or if she becomes an ally rather than the villain, but maybe still is Mirror Master but isn't a villain. I don't know. I feel that will be something that will be constantly teased throughout the back half, but it feels like Iris and her newspaper were just, forgotten about. And I have seen Iris fans disappointed with this, and for once, I do agree. We were told there would be a lot of focus on this, and outside of one episode, I guess, it's pretty much been forgotten or given to other characters like Allegra in the latest episode that we just watched. But the newspaper will play a role in this week's episode from what I know. The 3 ladies of the Central City Citizen, that being Iris, obviously, Allegra, and Camilla, will be doing some investigating for part of the episode at least. Now, the last thing I want to go over is actually a short snippet from an interview with both Danielle Panabaker and Eric Wallace, where they were talking about the previous week's episode, but they also talked about some stuff for the future of The Flash. So let's go over it. So firstly, on Chester's future, so obviously Chester P. Runk. This is coming from Eric Wallace. He says, "We love him. Brandon is a delightful person. I was watching when we shot an earlier episode in which he just lays in a bed the whole time or taps his fingers. I'm there watching and he's lying in the bed and I said, 'Do you want us to swap you out with a stand-in?' He said, 'No, I want to keep it real.' I said, 'You go, bro. I like you. We're going to bring you back.'" And this is what Danielle Panabaker said. She went, "Brandon is so funny and he's a team player who was open to trying new things." And then Eric Wallace finished it off by saying, "He's a great audience identification character because it's all new for him. We're a 6th season show and we need someone who's this all fresh and exciting too." We're working it out in the writer's room now. He's come out of this black hole, but what does it feel? What does he look like when he's facing a bigger challenge? Now, there has been a lot of speculation around Chester P. Runk as a character. Is he going to be replacing Cisco? Is he replacing another character in the back half? There's a lot of talk about him. I think he's one of those characters where they introduce him, they see what the audience reaction is to him, and then they'll bring him back in the back half if he's popular. Honestly, pretty much that's what happened with Felicity for the most part, and then they raised her role in season 2 of Arrow because for the most part audiences liked her. Can we think back to that, maybe change our decision there? Just joking. Anyway, so I think that's what's happening with Chester, even though he is going to probably appear in maybe 1 or 2 episodes that have already filmed. I think they are definitely waiting for audience reaction before confirming him for, whether it be a recurring or a regular role in maybe next season and beyond. And then finally, they were asked on the characters dealing with knowing they may lose Barry, and this is what Eric Wallace said. We've had to pay a ton of attention and be honest in the writing. My mother passed away 2 years ago, and this season is very much seeing the pain that Ramsey is dealing with. It's what I've been dealing with. We've talked a lot in the writer's room about dealing with grief and loss. It's so universal. Obviously, Grant's not going anywhere, but we still have to honor those emotions that are going on. We've taken our own personal baggage and said, let's let these characters be honest with one another, especially as we build up to Crisis, which is a life and death event, and one that we are playing very realistically, or as much as you can when your lead character is wearing a red onesie. Now, just quickly on this, Grant hasn't been seen filming episode 10 and 11 apparently, like seen on any set photos or just in and around Vancouver. I think I saw him in a set photo for Arrow's finale. Won't spoil what's happening there. You can go watch my videos if you want to see what's happening there. And I think he was in his Flash suit. So who knows what's happening there. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if maybe they make it that like something happens to Barry where necessarily isn't dead, but he's out of action for a certain amount of episodes. And then episodes 10, 11, 12, maybe those 3 episodes can be used to develop other characters post-Crisis and maybe introduce some stuff like Sue Dearborn and the black hole stuff, and even this new character of Eva McCulloch. So stuff like that maybe they could do, and they would have more time to do it if Barry isn't there. But it is called The Flash. You do expect The Flash to be there, so you wouldn't want him gone for too long if he isn't in these opening episodes. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on what we went over in this video. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.